with me as I be. There we go. So, hi everyone. I am Jess. I'm from the Columbia Shuswap Invasive Species Society, and today we're doing a presentation retitling it "Crafting Tinctures and Salves: Harnessing the Healing Potential of Invasive Plants." So, this is part of a three-part series that we're doing with the other invasive species groups in the Kootenays. So, we have had a presentation from the Central Kootenays already, and they did a workshop on edible invasives. We're hosting one today on the tinctures themselves, and then there'll be one on paper making next month, which will be held by the Central Kootenay Invasive Species Society. Ron is joining from Finn. That's great. Thank you so much. So I will get this rolling. I would love to introduce and welcome our wonderful presenter today, Ashta Frank. Would you like to say a few words about yourself, Ashta, before we get going?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Ashta Frank, and I am from Treaty 5 territory, living in Malacca. So I've been here since 2017, and I don't see myself leaving anytime soon. I am a Métis entrepreneur, but when introducing myself, I like to say that I'm a teacher. I grew up in a world where everybody says, don't tell them, don't tell them. I, however, had a good grandfather and said, if you can help them, teach them. If you can help them, show them. So that is why I do what I do. I have a holistic holistic intuitive healing studio in Sycamoose. And I am a mother and a grandmother of 3 granddaughters. That's me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashta. Such a pleasure and joy and gift to have you and have you sharing with us. And yeah, very, very grateful on behalf of our organization, but everyone listening today too. So thank you very much. So I'll get started on the slides here. Little welcome. As you kind of mentioned there, this is a nice picture of the Rockies where our region begins. So this is our little agenda day. We've done our introductions. I will go through a little bit of invasive species 101. So chatting to you about what classifies as an invasive species to us and what that means. So that it's pretty nuanced, and we can sort of make this as fluid and open as we like. And then we'll talk about some of the best practices in terms of harvesting and using invasive species, how to prevent the spread of them further. We'll talk about some ID features and a little bit of control. We'll just touch on that briefly. That's kind of part of harvesting and using them. And then Ashta will share her beautiful presentation that she's prepared, and I'm really excited for you all to enjoy it as well. We'll just have some housekeeping notes with Zoom. You're doing a great job. We prefer if people can keep themselves muted, just that way we reduce any chatter or any feedback that happens. The webinar will be recorded and follow-up email will be sent out afterwards. Also, if you fill out a little survey that we send at the end and in the follow-up email, you could win a CSISS prize. We have some pretty nifty stickers and some other little goodies that we can share with you if you like. And we encourage you all to come and join us in person for the next event that we have coming up at the end of the month. So this is Ash's beautiful introduction card, and I'd encourage you to scan the QR code if you want to learn more about Ashta's work. And again, I'll include all of this at the end. It's a beautiful picture, and I just think it really captures who you are, which I'm really keen to get to know. So just briefly a little bit about CSISS and what we do. So for those of you who may not have met us or interacted with us before, we are a non-profit. We are based out of Revelstoke, but we cover the whole Columbia Shuswap Regional District. And our main intention is to prevent and reduce invasive species through collaboration, coordination, and engagement. So you're part of that too today. And so we have three parts of our organization where we have an outreach program, an engagement, what I'm doing today. We have a field program that covers sort of two parts, and they do a lot of field work and inventorying plants in the region. And then also we have a field aquatic program that looks at invasive species like zebra quagga mussels and our whirling disease. So we're sampling, I think it's about 14 lakes this season to test the water and see if there's any evidence of zebra quagga mussel larvae. But that's for another presentation. Again, this is just a little map of where we cover, so pretty big region. It feels like often we do a fair bit of driving. We go basically to the Yoho border, or provincial border, into Yoho National Park, through Golden, Revelstoke, where I am. We go all the way into Sycamoose, where Ashta is, or Malacca, and through Salmon, and our sort of most western border finishes at Chase. So we spend a bit of time in the North Shuswap as well, which keeps us busy, but there's a lot of driving, especially on the Trans-Canada sometimes as well. So that's us. We're also part of, as I touched on earlier, a network of partners that do similar work throughout the region, so all throughout the province. So there's, I think, 12 other groups that do other invasive species work. So if you're joining from somewhere else, if you have invasive species questions or would like to see events like this in your region, you can get in touch with them there. I'll send the site deck to you so you can have a bit more of a look at this later. So I thought I'd first start by getting an overview of what native species are. So anyone can feel free to turn off their mic and jump in and give some examples maybe of native species that they know and love. They can be plants, they can be animals. Yeah, feel free to shout out if you like. Or if you're very quiet, I can share some. So we've got some images here. We've got some native species. So they are, in this case, we're looking at some plants that have evolved with the natural ecosystem and can live together for a long time in a balanced state. So we've got arnica, we've got tiger lily, we've got Saskatoon berries there. These are the ones that I'm seeing at the moment, and well, the Saskatoons aren't quite pretty, but they're getting there. They're pretty close. So the ones that I'm learning about, there's tons of others. So I think this is important to keep in mind because a lot of these examples are plants that have really specific relationships with our other species, so the wildlife, or also our native pollinators as well, which is a pretty key piece of all of this too. So yeah, I didn't realize I put little titles on them. There you go. So what about invasive species? This is kind of my wheelhouse. I have a bit more knowledge, and so would anyone, if I shouted out to the crowd again, would anyone like to have a guess at what invasive species are? Very quiet group. So at CSISS, we go off a provincial system. There we go. We've got Erin in the chat. Thank you so much, Erin. Invasive species, non-invasive, non-native species that spread. Absolutely. So they are also species that are not from here. So we classify that as British Columbia to keep it more regionally and locally specific. There are often species that we see in British Columbia that we classify as invasive. They've come from somewhere else. So that could be other parts of Canada. A lot of the time, different plants and animals may not have made it over the Rockies themselves, so they've been brought here by people, either intentionally or accidentally, sometimes by animals. They can be animals, plants, insects, or even microbes, so that adds a whole nother layer of complexity. And we generally think that they have a negative impact on either people, so that could be a cultural value, the environment, or the economy. And they can sort of lead to an imbalance or dysfunction of ecosystems where they can bring on those detrimental impacts. A big key piece, which I think I'll mention in the next slide, but I'll mention it now because it just really does speak to me about what a big problem invasive species are. They're classified as the second biggest threat to global biodiversity. So that's only second to habitat clearing and habitat loss. So it kind of it weighs heavier. It is something that I think holds a lot of value and weight, and we need to really consider. So some of the characteristics of invasive species are that they are not native to the landscape. They have a really great dispersal ability. So the really beautiful insect that is in the slides here is an emerald ash borer, and I love the color of it. It's stunning, but it has some pretty negative impacts on a variety of industries and plants especially, but it can fly. So it can spread on its own accord, and that really makes invasive species and managing them quite tricky. They reproduce rapidly. There's an image of a rabbit there because we know they do that. They are adaptable to new places often. They can survive better than some of the native species often, or there might be certain conditions that allow them to thrive. The big thing that I often say too is they lack predators. So we bring them here, but we forget to bring the things that keep them in check. So the pathogens, the diseases, and the things that like to eat them. So they can reproduce really quickly, and their populations can grow quicker than what we expect. So as I mentioned just before, the second biggest threat to biodiversity worldwide, which I think is pretty confronting. They compete with native species, degrade habitat and agricultural land. They're really expensive to manage and treat, which I can chat to a whole other presentation about that, but they can be really expensive, not only to sort of manage and often near impossible to eradicate some of these things once they're on the landscape. Often they can be dangerous or have some sort of toxic element. So we are really lucky in the Columbia Shuswap region. We only have, I think, 2 or 3 known locations of this plant here. It's called giant hogweed. It can get easily confused with a few different species from the cat family, but this one causes pretty serious burns. As you can see, this person's leg has just blistered and burned, and it's like confronting and scary kind of image, but that is what we see. And I've even had recently, in the last few years, there was some children in camps that are using the stems. They're kind of hollow. I don't know if you can see my head, but they're a hollow stem. And they're using them as like an eye magnifying glass, and they got burns around their eyes. It's a pretty awful kind of thing to happen, but just those things can happen really accidentally really easily. And so they can also lead to erosion and water siltation. They can degrade riparian zones, so where there's any waterways or streams. They can reduce forage for native species and also agriculturally. And once established, they're often really difficult to remove. And that's that. There are some cultural impacts. This is a plant called puncture vine. It can lead to trail closures, so preventing us accessing the sites and places that we might know and love. We're again lucky we don't have this one in our region yet, but it spreads really easily as it gets sort of punctured into something like a tire here, or can impact people's pets, and it spreads really aggressively. It kind of sprawls and crawls across trails, and is like very, very difficult to treat and manage. It generally prefers like a drier sort of climate, so something that we're keeping an eye out for and is on our radar. It's also can be toxic, and it's not one we want to deal with. So this can be applied with a variety of different invasive plants. They can impact the way that we act in natural spaces and where we access those foods or our native species that we want to see and protect. This one's a really awful image. I'm sorry, I should have warned you. This is a beautiful little bat stuck in burdock. So that's a plant that we'll touch on a little bit later with Ashta's presentation, but it just kind of goes to show you how they can have like a really obvious, quite disturbing impact to ourselves, but wildlife. And I think this one kind of brings it home that sort of plant that you don't think too much of being burdock. There's if you felt it or you got it stuck on you on a tail, you know that it's a sticky thing, and it's actually the inspiration of Velcro. And you can see why when something fluffy or soft brushes by it, it can attach itself really easily. Unfortunately, things like birds and bats can get their wings or they're stuck in them. So that's one really an unfortunate side effect of invasive species sometimes. They also can have economic impacts. So this one is not plant related, but it is a zebra and quagga mussel. So some of you may be familiar with that. They're known to attach to hard surfaces really well, clog infrastructure. They cause huge issues for hydroelectric dams, water treatment plants, anywhere that water travels through, basically. And this is an image of a shopping cart that's been in the water for some time, but they can have up to 1 million offspring in a year. So they reproduce pretty rapidly, and it just kind of would make the places we like to recreate in Shuswap really damaged, I guess. And there was a report that came out in 2023 that estimated that in BC, the total cost of trying to manage and treat zebra and quagga mussels would be between $64 and $129 million a year, with a huge piece of that economic loss going towards tourism, marinas, but also hydro and other things. So again, they have some pretty serious impacts. So a bit more related to what we're kind of looking at today, how do invasive species spread by harvesting plants? When we're out on the landscape, we can accidentally bring these plants home with us, whether we mean to or not. They can attach themselves, like this is burdock again in the image there with the poor dog stuck little stickies on its head, and there's a close-up image of what burdock looks like when it's sort of done its life cycle stage, but you can still see that that's going to stick to you. And they can also spread really easily in mud. So we see different recreation users, or that might be hikers, bikers, horse riders, or people foraging and harvesting. Yeah, hitchhikers, exactly. They'll hitch a ride. And so the seeds can kind of get stuck up in the mud or the taps of our tires, and that mud, if it's containing any seeds, can really easily spread to a new place. So not what we want at all. And yeah, we just need to be mindful of our gear. So we have an initiative called Play Clean Go, which encourages people when they're out on the landscape to do their recreating, do their harvesting, but making sure you're not accidentally bringing any hitchhikers along with you. So cleaning off your gear before you then go somewhere else. You'll often notice on the sort of first 100, 200 meters of a trailhead, there are often quite a few different invasive species along that sort of section, and that's often because that's where your invasives get introduced first. And so this is just another slide. They can spread easily by us, whether we sort of intend them to or not. And I just find this one interesting because they can spread by themselves as well. And I know in the spring a few months ago, I had tons of dandelions everywhere, and you can just sort of see how they spread. But I think Ash is going to speak to those as well. And so this is just another sort of example of how invasive species can kind of get sort of accidentally spread. Often if we're sort of done with our main plant material that we're using or harvesting, we can accidentally leave behind any sort of seed heads that might be kind of hiding in those spaces. So I know for myself, this has happened to me when I've been taking my garden waste and invasive plants to the landfill. If I don't bag them and treat them appropriately, they can continue to grow in my trailer if I don't take them soon enough or bag them. So we need to be mindful of that as well. And so The other piece that we talk about with people is by trying your very best not to grow or propagate any of the invasive plants, especially not buying them from a garden centre if possible. There's a lot of different native and non-invasive alternatives. So there's a program that the Invasive Species Council of BC runs, and it's called Plantwise. And I can also attach those resources to the end of this presentation. But it's really important to be aware of what we're growing. So here we've got baby's breath, which is one that we see often in floral bouquets, and there have been accounts of that being quite elaborate weddings. But when people get helicopters up into the alpine, they have baby's breath in their bouquets, and for alpine ecosystems, they're pretty valuable and fragile, so they can easily be disturbed by a plant like baby's breath, which is non-native and doesn't offer much to our native species. There's also periwinkle, which you see is slipping from gardens all the time, including my neighbours. But I think there's some good little messages here by keeping clean, limiting your disturbance, harvesting responsibly and in one location if you can, disposing them properly. So we ask that people bag their invasive species. And in the CSID, it's free to take any invasive species to a landfill. The other piece you can do is play clean go here and then report them as well. So the other piece too, I like to keep this in mind is we talk about this a lot with industry workers, so people that might work in forestry, logging companies, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of the way I think of it, like cleaning my house and doing my dishes. I start with the cleanest thing first, start with my glassware first, and then work my way to my dirty pots, and that way I've got less washing to do. And it kind of is a similar idea when I'm thinking about invasive plants, or if you can keep your equipment and vehicles away from those areas when you're parking and arriving at a location, or when you're going harvesting itself. If you're rushing through somewhere, if you can kind of map it out a little as you go. Not always as easy, but it's just kind of one way you can help reduce some of these species being spread. The other piece is different plants reproduce different ways. So some plants love to grow again, and if they start to get picked, they'll reshoot and regrow. So it's kind of interesting to learn about how different plants disperse and grow. So often we see different plants like we've got a weed pool coming up here in Ulster next week. We're going to be targeting Himalayan balsam. And so that's one that we love to pick before it goes to flower if we can, or before it goes to seed eventually, because it spreads very easily once it's going. It has an explosive seed called Himalayan balsam. It's a pink flower, which is really beautiful. But that's just like a way that we can sort of be mindful about how we're harvesting plants. This is an extra info here about these plants. So knapweed, the purple one there, the seed itself can produce 140,000 seeds per year. So that seems mind-boggling to me. Knapweed there in the middle is an impressive plant. I'll give it that. It can grow up to 8 centimeters in a day in some parts of the world in ideal conditions, and regrow from like a teeny pea-sized shoot. So it can also grow from any part of the plant, so any root material, any of the stems. So that's one that we want to be mindful of. St. John's wort is a plant that's often used in a lot of different ways, but it can spread both by its rhizomes or its roots underground and by its stems and seeds. So ideally, this is kind of one that we wouldn't want people to grow in their own backyards if possible. There's a lot of it growing everywhere on the landscape, so that's my little note on that. And this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, about sort of if you can have a scan around and see where has the most serious infestation, and then work your way from the least or less prolific invasive species area to the more, so if you can. And if you can, avoid areas with avoid plants that have already gone to seed, because often only disturb them we can easily spread them throughout the landscape, especially something like a knapweed that can produce 140,000 seeds, or as in mullein do the same thing. So yeah, the best idea for some of these species is to minimize the disturbance, and also, I'm sure that Ash will chat about this in a little bit more detail, but we're going to be really mindful about not disturbing our native landscape and our native vegetation where we can. So being mindful of where we step and what we're pulling. This is again more on that. When we do our weed pulls with people, we monitor the site. So you go back and check and see how well we removed everything. We do a survey at the end. And then in a lot of cases, we are able to, we seed or replant a native species. We have a really great connection in the treaties, and they provide a lot of seed for us, which is so wonderful and generous. We also do some seed saving and seed harvesting workshops, which you sign up to our newsletter, will keep you informed about. And this is just another step about making sure you contain them properly. So in the middle here is, that's yellow-thighed iris, if anyone's familiar with it. Those seed pods are super buoyant once they're going, and we put everything in bags and take it to landfill is our practice here. And making sure you can fly out the back of your truck. And so this is again making sure we're being mindful about where we're disposing it. Sometimes you can get away, or you don't have to put them in the garbage bags. You can put them in a big tub. You just have to let the burrito them up like a big yummy dish. But I would let your local CSISS landfills know that you're doing that before. And if you've got large quantities, I really appreciate a heads up so they can know that's coming. We also avoid composting where possible of invasive plants, because if you've ever composted and then maybe pumpkin or a squash or something, you'll notice that they don't always perfectly compost unless you're really skilled at it. I'd recommend that you take it to landfill instead. And people do often burn plants, but it's not something we recommend often due to fire bans, and also because the seeds can survive in different parts of the plant as well. By knowing what you grow, so the plate growing instead, and the plant-wise materials, which I'll send along at the end, and they support a lot of our native ecosystems and pollinators too. When you're sharing different plants, do it with care. Ideally, don't share the invasives, and where possible, be mindful of where you're digging up dirt or collecting different plants from, especially if somebody just dirt, you may be accidentally introducing plants on your place. And you shouldn't really be digging up a whole chunk of native plants anyway. So again, this is a bit more about things to do in your garden. I am a big garden girl, and I've got plants in my garden here to keep me settled during the presentation. I've got some mint and some sweet peas and nasturtiums and stuff there, but I'm always out kind of checking and seeing what's popping up, and often I'm surprised. I have all sorts of stuff that I'm like, how did that get there? So just kind of connecting with your space and learning what you've got going on. If you do end up finding things, you can deadhead them, prune them, cut or mow them back depending on what they are. But I've got like chicory growing in my garden right now, and the only way I can get rid of it is to dig it up. So it's best after some rain that softens the ground up. We can also use ground covers as well. So this brings me near the end of my presentation here, but we also encourage people to report invasive species. So especially some of the nasty ones like knotweed, if we're seeing them occur in new places, we go and survey them every year. And we really want to prevent them being spread to new places. So this image there in the screen is knotweed in its early stages. So we generally start to see that like late March, April, May is when you start to see it, and it kind of looks like asparagus almost. So it always helps when we can get out there early looking at things. So we can report things by the app, which is screenshot there, and so that sends a notification up to the province on what it is, and if it's something of high alert or high priority, we go out and check it out. You can also report to our website, or give us a call or send us an email. So that brings me to the end of my piece. These are some of our supporters and funders there, and I am going to hand over to Ashta now. and get her to share her screen.
Hi, I figured it out. I am Ashta Frank, uh, Métis practitioner, traditional herbalist, living in Malaqua from Treaty 5 territory, like I said. What a lot of people don't know what traditional herbalist means. So in my community, that means that the knowledge has been passed down through generations, which means that my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and grandfather, they had firsthand knowledge of plants, basically plants. However, in my culture, there is no such thing as invasive species. So kind of puts you off a little bit when you get a big presentation like that from Jess, and then I pop on and say, um, actually, in my culture, there's no such thing. So the indigenous community believes that where the earth is sick, where the earth needs help, herbs will grow, plants will grow, flowers will grow, and the ecosystem will adjust so long as it's not disturbed. So the ecosystem will adjust so long as you don't go put a big uranium mine right beside it, type of thing. Crushed gravel and projects like that. Crushed gravel seems to be a really, really bad one for any type of plant or medicine. So what I do is I make use of these plants. I'm going to call them plants. So before we start, I am in Secwepemc territory, and I like to promote respectful harvesting. So when I say respectful harvesting, I can't say that you won't find me in someone's backyard picking, because you will. I mean, only take what you need. So there's a real big problem with sage in the area. So please just take what you need. And do not take what you don't know what it is. So when in the fall time, it's a real big problem with the mushrooms. You'll see it posted online. What is this? But it's already picked. So please do not pick what you don't know, because that is how invasive species start. You're taking it from one spot and you're pulling it into your backyard, and you're doing all kinds of experiments, and it doesn't help anybody and could potentially be poisonous to you and your family when you are giving them tinctures or you are rubbing salve on their skin and you don't know what it is. Please don't do it. We don't encourage it. Ask questions. There'll be a slide here where you can get a hold of me, and you've seen Jess's slide. Please ask if you don't know. There's no such thing as a silly question. It's silly if you're going to give it to your family and they get sick. And ask permission to harvest. So I'm going to go totally against my own rule here, because you'll find me everywhere, up the logging road, down by the river. You'll find me everywhere. However, if people know who you are in the community, they kind of have a sense of pride, like, oh, that's just silly Ashta, she's out there picking whatever and somebody must need something. Let it be known to the people that you're around, their yard, their property, their business, whatever it may be. Just make yourself known so you're safe and they feel safe as well. So you don't want to have some old lady wake up in the middle of the afternoon from her nap and find you in her yard, type thing, right? Make sure that both parties are safe. That's my respectful harvesting spiel. So today we have some medicines. The nasty burdock, the little hitchhiker that nobody likes except for me. The dandelion, which everybody's out spraying their driveway and their lawn and getting rid of the dandelions. The broadleaf plantain. There are two different plantain leaves. Mine is the broadleaf. That's the one I like to work with. And the mullein, the breath of the land. Your furry little, not little, they're huge. Some of them are quite large. Your furry little leaves. So we'll go through that and I will show you the medicines that are made and why we make them and why the Indigenous community has an understanding that there's no such thing as invasive. And why we believe that we are given these medicines and these herbs to help people. Your dandelion. You want to see how pathetic my dandelions are today in my yard? Look. It's too hot for my dandelions. However, everybody sprays these every spring and it drives me crazy. Pull it just like that. Medicine is so simple. There's nothing complicated about medicine whatsoever. It's so simple. You take this part and you put it aside. You take this when it's nice and full bloom like the picture, and you just set it on a screen, paper towel, dish towel, whatever it may be, to dry it. Okay, you dry it out when it's all nice and dry. Take it, drop it in a jar. It's so simple. Okay, so if you want to make a salve out of it, this is a mix. It's got sunflower and olive oil. Pour it in. Make sure everything's covered. All plants are covered. If you don't want to use that, grapeseed, which is my preference. Costco is our best friend when we make medicine. So we use that. Make sure everything is covered. The entire plant is covered. The leaves of the dandelion, wash them up, chop them up, throw it into your salad. They have a tolerable bitter taste. They're not sweet, almost like kale. That's how they're tasting. So with the dandelion, when I make a salve, it turns out beautiful like that. It is so pretty. The color is so pretty. The smell is, I wish you could smell this. So anybody that has acne scars, burn victims, eczema, psoriasis, what it does is it's like it acts as the antioxidant and antibacterial properties. So when it's on the skin, it rejuvenates your skin cells and it helps the healing process of your skin. In regards to the acne scars and burn scars, in order for those to diminish or minimize, you are rejuvenating your skin and your skin cells, which is why the dandelion is so important for that. Like it says right there, the symbol of renewal, spiritual cleansings. So in the springtime, you'll see a lot of us herbalists picking dandelions like crazy. And that is why. Because in a month, you're going to have children with sunburn and you're going to need the dandelion salve. So a fun little tidbit, your little dandelion, if you pull the yellow out and you're just left with that, can you see it? So if you're just left with that, give it a soak in water, get all the yugs out of it, dry it on a paper towel. I'm going to suggest paper towel, and you can make bread with it. dandelion bread. Yeah, an invasive species. You can make dandelion bread out of it. It is not a sweet bread like your store-bought bread, but um, it is very healthy, especially for the antibacterial. I see something in the chat here. Should I just take a second and check it out? Yes, it'll work on rosacea. I have rosacea, so yes. Will there be a more explicit recipe for dandelion salve? I will give it to you. I don't have a problem giving anybody my recipes. If it's not on here, all of my contact information is on there. That's what I do is I share. Okay. Here's your hitchhiker. I didn't go pick a hitchhiker. The root of the burdock, why it's so invasive is the root of it. It's, if you could picture that tree of life, the roots just come right around and they're quite deep. So in my communities, the only way to get rid of this, like if there's a home that has a lot of children, we burn it. And we make sure that it's burning deep. So they do a controlled burn in this person's yard and make sure that it's okay for the kids to be playing around there because this spreads so fast. And like I said, the roots are so deep. The roots, however, when you make a tincture out of it, if you don't know what a tincture is, you'll find them, they'll come in bottles like this. And what it is the burdock root, alcohol mixed. Okay. So you pull it out of the ground, and same concept, drop it in the jar and fill it with alcohol. Listen is so simple. So simple. There's nothing crazy about it. I have alcohol, I have olive oil, I have grapeseed oil, I have jars, obviously reused jars from making supper. It doesn't have to be crazy. The more you keep it simple, the easier it is to remember why you're doing it and who you're doing it for. So in the burdock root, personally, I don't make very much tincture out of it. I take the roots out, pull the root, mine pulls the root, I don't, and clean it. And if there's any hairs per se on the root, we'll just kind of shave it off. Clean it all up. While it is still moist, you chop it up finely into small little pieces and you lay it out to dry. And people that are suffering with cirrhosis of the liver and any type of liver disease, really, in my community, they use it a lot for a detox agent. So you would steep it, general rule of thumb, steeping anything, 5 minutes, and drink the entirety of it. And do not eat the root. Just leave it. Just leave it. So in my community, we use all medicines and roots, herbs, anything of the sort 4 times before we go and bury the medicine in the yard. So you can make a very, very bitter tea. And if you have somebody in your family that is suffering with something with their liver, then that's what you're after. You can go and pick it and make sure you got nice clean roots. And please make sure nobody has sprayed in that area. Especially for an ingestible medicine, you need to make sure that they're not spraying in that area. because you could potentially hurt somebody. So early spring, late fall, in my yard, as soon as the sun starts shining in this valley, it's all over my yard. So we don't touch it until the fall time when they're seeding and they're literal hitchhikers and they're all over your clothes. We don't touch it until then. And it's a little, if you leave it to the fall time, it's a little easier to pull the root. So be very careful, put gloves on. Don't go fighting with a burdock medicine if you don't have to. It's not advised. At any time, you can drop your questions in the chat there, just in case I'm going too fast. I tend to ramble really quick. Mullein. This is one of the best medicines available to us. And in my yard, it's everywhere in my yard. You go up the mountain, it's everywhere. So this is your lung medicine. So if you turn your leaf around, they're like so. They're nice and furry. If you turn your leaf around, the leaf itself resembles the makeup of your lungs. Very easy to identify. The furriness of it, you'll know right away as soon as you see it. You'll be like, oh, that is so beautiful. I need it. So we take this. Many people dry it. I don't. I'm too impatient. I bring it home. I wash it up. I chop it up. And I put it into an alcohol. When you put it into an alcohol, keep it simple. I think this is a pickle jar. Put your plant in. Put your plant in. And fill it up with your alcohol. Make sure, always make sure that you're taking your bubbles out and make sure all of your plants are submerged by the alcohol. Okay? So simple. So during it, you have no idea how much of this I got rid of. You have no idea. People couldn't breathe. They couldn't go to the doctor. They were given antibiotics. They said, oh, it's a respiratory virus. Let it pass. We couldn't let it pass because we were all so sick. So the mullein tincture, which comes in a bottle like this, 2-ounce bottle, take it and drop it under your tongue. If you can't stand the taste of it, put it in a little bit of water and shoot it back. So it will literally open up your airways. It will take all of the infection out. You will bring out your infection, much like a baby. When a baby's sick and he needs to cough and he needs to sneeze, he or she is just getting away to get the sickness out. And that's how your body will react to this medicine. And it'll open up all your little capillaries so that you could breathe properly and you could get that fresh air into you to help your body heal. I can't go on enough about this stuff. It is so good. And I believe mullein has a vitamin to it as well. I can't remember which vitamin it is, but it does have a vitamin in there. I sell it as a tincture. I don't do mullein tea very often unless my family is around. That's probably the only time you'll see me drinking that type of a tea, because the alcohol brings out so much of the medicine. Because the leaf is nice and thin, the thinner the leaf, the better. It brings out so much medicine and it's easier to use in a tincture. So it is literally your breath of your ancestors. Invasive, very invasive, very invasive. You've got to be careful with this stuff. It doesn't take too much to track it all around your yard or your neighbor's yard, whatever it may be. It does not, it happens so fast. And before you know it, their pretty flowers are taken over by the mullein leaf. So this, so in the Mohawk territories, they grow their own tobacco. And on this side, in BC, Alberta, and BC, this is the tobacco. So in ceremonies, you'll see it being smoked. So invasive, yes, very, very invasive, very dangerous to a lot of farmers that are trying to grow your carrots and everything else. This stuff takes over real fast, and then they can't feed us. So be very careful with it. And like I said, you're not sure, please don't pick it at home and chuck it in the backyard because it's not going to help anybody. Plantain. So this little leaf, mine's pecked out by my chickens. My crazy little chickens get up my medicine, which is fine. There's probably a reason why they need it. So this can be used in a number of ways. You can make a salve. So you would pick these, and the identifying trait of these is the string. So when you pull it, you don't pull up, you pull out. And you will see little strings that come out, and that's your identifier. You can't miss it. You can even feel the string on it as you're pulling it. So everybody complains about these, like, oh, these stupid weeds are all over my driveway. And I just think to myself, they're not stupid, you silly goose. They are so good. They are so good. So these are for wounds. So when you have like the duck itch, when you have boils, when you have abscess wounds, burns, anything of the sort, um, bee stings, this is really good for. So if you are out camping, let's say, and one of the kids is hurt, you're hurt, you take the leaf, you roll it until you can feel the liquid in your hand, and you take it and you put it right on. Wrap it and leave it. And this will pull the infection and in turn put all of the anti-inflammatories and antibacterials, antimicrobial benefits of this plant into your wound and help you heal. So there is a salve, you can make salve out of it. I don't cut it. I just leave it just like that. Pull it, come in, wash it off, take all the excess water out of it, and drop it into your jar and fill that jar with your oil, your carrier oil. Not everybody uses the same oil as I do. That's just my preference. And I feel like the skin absorption rate is faster. That is one way to use a plantain plant. I'm going to get really vulnerable and also let you in on a little secret of what else we use this for. When our communities are suffering from drug and alcohol abuse and we're going into ceremony and we need something to help particular people with the detox remedies and the help so that they don't go into ceremony during withdrawal, we call these frog leaves. And we make them a tea out of this, and it helps with the withdrawal symptoms. And it is very effective. And you will see the color of people coming back to them. You will see the life coming back to them. That's just something I just wanted you to know because everybody's like those stupid little things in my driveway. And I just think that they're so important. So these, hang on here, I got a chat. What elk am I referring to? I use this. So in order to make a tincture, you're using alcohol, okay? In order to make a salve, you're using an oil. So if there's two ways to use the plant, not too many people are going to use a plantain tincture. However, they will use a plantain salve. I hate to show my label. I had a complaint that I triggered somebody one time, okay? White lightning. Simple. Alberta. Alberta vodka. So when you're doing your tinctures, please make sure that you're buying the 100 proof vodka, okay? I've heard of other people making medicine out of brandy, and I tried once with Everclear. I didn't have good feedback from it. And you also have to remember if you're working with people with drug and alcohol addictions, you don't want that alcohol aftertaste. My preference is white lightning, and I tell everybody to use it. It it's successful. All of my harvests are successful. Go stagnant or stale using it. And even if I forget about my tinctures and I leave them on the shelf for 10 weeks, I still have very good results. Does that answer your question? Is that what you were looking for, Leslie? You're welcome. Okay, so I'm gonna share a secret with you, okay? Because it's camping season and our kids are running wild everywhere. And you forgot your afterbite at home. I'm going to show you afterbite. The Métis afterbite. So your plantain leaf and your yarrow. Simple. It's so simple. Medicine is not complicated. Big Pharma's made it complicated. This is your afterbite. You take the plantain and you roll it until you feel the liquid in your hand. You take your yarrow. After you feel the liquid of the plantain in your hand, you take your yarrow, pull the stem, and do the same thing. So your yarrow is like so. And that's just the white yarrow. Roll them both up and rub it right on the skin because our kids are running wild, right? And you forget stuff. So that's one of our little tricks in the camping. There you go. Somebody wanted the dandelion salve. Who wanted the dandelion salve? There you are, Leslie. Leslie, there you are. You're getting all you can out of this session. I love it. So one thing I will let you know about the dandelion salve. When you use a double boiler method, please keep it at its very lowest. If you don't keep it at its very lowest, your salve is going to have this yucky smell to it and nobody's going to want to use it. So keep it at its lowest. A lot of the salves you can get away with keeping it at medium heat. However, the dandelion, it doesn't do well in high heat. I'm not too sure why. So your greens from your dandelion flower. So your jar is going to look like this, okay? You fill it up with your flour and then you put your oil in. Okay, so for a salve, you're going to use oil 4 to 6 weeks on the shelf. Every now and then go and give it a good shake. And heads up, the oil containers are so heavy, so don't drop it. They are very heavy and very dense, and your medicine could get stuck on the bottom. So you see how that's stuck down there? So shaking it is literally shaking it, and you could lose your medicine all over the floor. Then you take it 4 to 6 weeks, minimum 4 weeks, okay? Minimum 4 weeks. And you strain it out. And I am a cheater. I use the aluminum the aluminum strainers from Dollarama, and then I put a piece of cheesecloth over it. Okay, so let's just do the math on this. So $9, okay? Free because we had this for supper, right? An hour to pick your dandelions, another half hour to clean them all up. And your strainers from Dollarama, $4, if that, on a good day. And your cup of beeswax, I'm going to set you back at about $1. And then your containers, the containers, I think 10 for, so it's really nothing, right? And then your family will appreciate this for Christmas. Do you remember when we used to give each other medicine and food for Christmas? It's so simple. So there's no science to it. There's no confusion about it. Just keep it very, very simple. And patience and time and love. You're welcome. You're welcome. So there's your dandelion salve. I need to know if anybody has questions. Any of that, please say so we can answer you. I don't know, Jess can help me. We're here to teach you.
Does anyone
Does
have any
anybody?
questions? We have a shy bunch, but if you
We
have questions,
do.
pop them in the chat. You can always contact us afterwards too if you feel at all nervous or unsure, don't have any questions yet. I don't have any questions myself, but I'm just very, very thankful for your time. I neglected to acknowledge where I am from in my intro with my nerves of hosting an online presentation, but if you can't tell from my accent, I'm originally from Australia, so in both places I'm a settler to those lands, and currently I'm living on the lands of the crossover area, I guess, of the Tanaha, Kwetnek, Tanaha and Syilx people. So I feel super lucky to live where I do and see the landscape. But I am learning and I'm learning so much. And I just wrote down so many little beautiful notes of your information and your knowledge, and really thankful for sharing it. I feel like I had no idea about some of these things. You can make dandelion bread, and I'm really curious to meet you in person and learn this myself too. And I feel like I'm always wanting to learn, and feel like you've done a really beautiful job at sharing all you know. And also want to share that we try not to villainize the
I
plants. You know,
think,
it's not the plant's fault.
yeah,
Um, and so I really appreciate you sharing with us. So thank you so much.
you're welcome. I think sessions like this are so important. I always say there's no such thing as a silly question. Just ask. I will tell you that's what I'm here for. We will be having upcoming an upcoming medicine workshop. So here in Sycamoose at the Red Barn. So as much as I like to natter on, you can join us and make your own. So, oh, here's my email. Oh, I didn't show you the slide with
Oh,
my,
sorry.
oh, I'm sorry.
I jumped out. I can let you reshare. I just had um this is a little poster for the upcoming event. And so if you scan the QR code, or I can send it in a follow-up email as well, you'll be able to see that. But I'll stop sharing my screen so that we can see yours, Ashta.
Oh, okay, okay. So I will show you the last one here where you can jot it down, where you can find me. There you go. That was the last one. Sorry. So this is where you can find me. The métismedicine.ca is my Shopify shop. New this year.
Nice.
So you'll find anything like the tinctures, 2-ounce tinctures, and then the salves, anything else for anybody that's not around here. And my
Mhm.
shop is where you can afford medicine because I believe it should be affordable to people who are sick.
Mhm.
And then the deeplakeholistic.com is my shop in Sycamoose, and your energy healing, your body treatments, your consultations, all kinds of stuff like that. And then deeplakeholistic@gmail.com, where you can book the presentations. There's medicine classes, art classes, everything of the sort. Um, I am on Facebook on Deep Lake Holistic and Intuitive Healing. And I'm also on TikTok
Yeah.
because the kids taught me about TikTok as Métis Medicine. So you can see all kinds of stuff that I do there. I do all kinds of workshops and stuff like that right here in Malaqua. And through the Eagle Valley Arts Council. So that's where you can find me.
Mhm.
Who was that? Thea and Leslie. Is that all the information that you needed? Does anybody have anything else that they're looking for? You are so quiet. Wow.
It's sad. So friendly.
Okay, that is it for me.
Awesome. Thanks again so
Thank
much.
you.
I really learned so much, and I'm excited to try to give dandelion bread a go. I had no idea that that was something you could do. So,
Yeah, it's a
um,
real thing. It's a real thing.
yeah,
And
it
it,
is.
I think that just recently people are discovering, oh my, this dandelion is medicine. Whoa. Because
Mhm.
they spray them and they pick them and they're just so annoyed by it. And now a lot of people are like, whoa, 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 don't touch my dandelions, you know. I need
Mhm.
those dandelions. Same with the wild lettuce. It's just like people are starting to learn that we can use these for a lot of different things, bread being one of them.
Yeah. I
So
love the way that it makes it more accessible and makes it, not this scary thing that we can't access or use. It's like growing around us and
yeah,
I
it's
can,
everywhere.
yeah, I think if we can utilize these plants in different ways, like that is a solution for everyone. And I think, I love your anecdotes and your sharing of um, how healing they can be, like how powerful they are for people. And I think making that something that people can access is so beautiful, but like also really important. So
So
again,
important.
thank you
Yeah.
so much. But I think that leads us to the end of our presentation. Um, there will be a follow-up email that we send through, and if you're at all interested, we do have a little quiz available, or a little survey, sorry, available. It's a little prize pack from CSISS. It's not a huge extravagant, just a non-profit, but we'll do what we can, and you can sign up for our newsletters and all that sort of stuff too. And the thing that I'm really, really personally excited about is meeting Ashta and coming on this workshop. So I encourage you to sign up and maybe be able to make one of these things for yourself, which would be pretty sweet. So I hope you'll have a lovely evening and maybe prevent some bug bites and some stings of that after that, because I got bitten yesterday. So I hope everyone can find a way to heal themselves too. But thank you very much. I'm going to stop the recording and end our presentation there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Now I'm going to stop the recording if I can figure that out. Oh, recording.